Today you're joining me on the bank of Inniscara Reservoir, Southern Ireland. Now Inniscara is famed for big bags of small to medium sized fish catching close in, but that's not what today is about. Today is about using the new Distance Special Inzon feeder rods to fish a little bit further out in the hope of catching some bigger fish and put the rods to the test. There are 5 rods in the range, ranging from 11 foot, 2 12 foot, 13 foot and a 14 foot. Now the rods I used today were the 11 foot 80 gram feeder for fishing 40 metres, and then I used the 12 foot 120 gram feeder for casting feeders up to 75 gram up to 70 metres, and they were absolutely perfect for that. So let me tell you a little bit about the rods. The action of these rods is loosely based on the famous SLR range of rods. Now let's talk a bit of the technology that's incorporated into these. You have X45 and Nano Plus Carbon technology. So what does that mean to you, the angler? Well, straighter casts, less recoil on the cast, which in turn means greater distances and easier casting. On these blanks are fitted the new anti-tangle stainless steel sea guides, again to aid casting distance, less tangles again. Each rod comes with 3 dedicated carbon quiver tips. Now these quiver tips are the same tips used in the previous range of Inzon rods. So had you had them rods, you can just hold on to the tips and they're perfectly fitted. Now these tips also have large-eyed guides which aid casting and aid the use of large diameter shock leader knots. So there's super smooth on the cast. Moving down to the rod handle, you have a down-locking reel seat, super secure, so the reel never get loose throughout the day. You have a Cork EVA foregrip, which is super comfortable, especially in cold weather. And then finishing off, you have the original famous Daiwa armour lock handle fitting your forearm perfectly. So today's session started off, I wanted to really push the rods to the limit. So the plan was to use the 12 foot 120 gram feeder, chucking out 75 gram feeders into side wind. Now looking at the conditions, it's got calmer, but earlier in the day, I tell you what, it was windy. So I started the session by feeding 6 big window bait up feeders out on that line at 70 metres. The plan being, I wanted to try and target bigger fish out there on bigger baits, so I fed chopped worm, corn, castor, out there, 6 feeder fulls, let it settle for an hour, and during that first hour I used the 11 foot 80 gram feeder rod to fish at 40-45 metres for varying size fish, hybrids, roach, perch, whatever it would take there. Casting more often with that rod. On the longer rod I was fishing bigger baits and leaving it there for longer, hoping that the skimmers would home in. And it worked a treat, in fairness. Took a little while. We went out after an hour onto the longer line. Took a while, maybe 20 minutes before we started to get indications. That would be normal really, because the bait is down there, the fish have moved in on it. They might have backed off a little bit because there's not a whole lot happening. But once the feeder starts going in on top of them regularly, the fish come back in. And again, it worked perfectly. We started catching nice skimmers, nothing massive, maybe up to 2.5 pound, but really enjoyable. It gave me a great chance to test out the rods, see the fish playing actions. And in fairness, the fish playing actions were absolutely perfect. No hook pulls. We weren't winding the heads off them or anything. It was just nice, enjoyable fishing. The 11 foot 80 gram feeder, it blew me away, that rod. That is not to me just a distance fishing feeder rod. In the conditions we had earlier, big side winds, we were only fishing 45 metres, but it made chucking that distance an ease. We were using feeders that time 60 grams to punch into that side wind, and it was just beautiful to use. Now on these rigs, just running through the rigs a bit, we used heli rigs. Now heli rigs really go hand in hand with distance feeder fishing nowadays because they're more or less completely tangle proof. They're simple to use. Daiwa do them there, simple, just slide them onto the line and they work superbly. No tangles, using big baits, even using corn, double corn for some of these hybrids, there were no spin-ups on the hook length. So all in all, it was a really good day, really enjoyable, perfect rods. So if you want to get more information on this fabulous range of rods, visit Daiwa website or get down to your local Daiwa stockist.